bitch so bad, I wanna shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you want, it ain't nothing but a loop. Don't listen to friends, they don't know what's best for you. I want you, I wanna shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you.
What is up, guys? My name is Mason Marquis. I'm joined with
Jackson Gamber.
This is the Sports Key podcast. This is episode 6.
Yep.
This episode is called Final Thoughts. We're going to just go back through the NBA season, give our final thoughts on that, give our final thoughts on the playoffs themselves and the finals specifically. And then also we're going to talk about the NHL, dive into some more transfer news. There's not too much, but there's a little more transfer news we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to run through the MLB. And then we have to talk about the CONCACAF Champions League.
Yep.
Not Champions League, CONCACAF National
Gold Cup.
Not my best performance. So we're going to jump in to the NBA. A look back on the entire season. The Nuggets came in with the 5th best odds to win the finals this year. Are you surprised that they were able to overcome 4 other teams and win the championship? Or did you kind of see it coming with how they were playing throughout the season? They started out extremely hot, and they didn't let up the entire year.
I was pretty surprised. I'm not really surprised about Jokic. We know how good he is. We know that he can perform and that he's just an overall beast. But I was really surprised about how, yes, you could say Jokic carried, but there was also points where people like Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon put in their shift too, and I think just all around they deserve the chip.
Yeah, they played extremely well, especially throughout the playoffs. Going into the last series against the Heat, I think that everyone had a feeling that the Nuggets were going to win that series. You know, they're going up against the 8 seed. The 8 seed's never won the finals before.
Yeah.
A play-in team has never won the finals before. But a lot of morale was behind the Heat.
Yeah.
Are you surprised how well the Heat played? Are you disappointed in the way they played? How do you feel about them specifically? Because coming into the season, it was a question if they were even going to make the playoffs or not.
I was definitely I was definitely a little disappointed on how they played in the finals. I think they played really well besides that. I think they almost, really close to giving it up to the Celtics.
Yeah.
But I was really happy on how they played up until the finals, and I was kind of surprised on how they played, but I knew Jimmy Butler, he's a great player, and he can definitely do big things for his team in general, and I just feel like when it came to the finals, he didn't really show up.
Right. No, I definitely can understand what you're saying, but the Heat throughout the entire season played so well compared to where they were supposed to finish. You know, they were supposed to finish as 8, 9, maybe 10 in the East. They did finish in that 8 spot, but they were able to find a way to go all the way to the finals, so extremely impressive. In the playoffs, they had some injuries. Tyler Hero, who was a big part of their team, went down in their playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if they were healthy, they could have put up an even better battle against the Nuggets. But for being an 8 seed, playing against one of the best teams in the league, which proved to be the best team in the league,
Yeah.
I think they did extremely well, and it's something to be proud of, and I think it's something they'll build on next season. Looking forward to next season, the opening odds have the Nuggets as the team to win it. Would you be willing to bet on the Nuggets to repeat, or do you think that you'd be more willing to bet on a team like the Lakers, who have like the 7th best odds? The Celtics have the 2nd best odds.
Where are the Spurs sitting at right now? Do you know?
Bottom 10 in the league.
Really?
They're not a great team. Wembanyama is going to be super young, and they don't have enough to build around him yet to make a playoff push, in my opinion, and in the opinions of many sports bettors out there, and Vegas as a whole doesn't have them even making the playoffs.
I feel like you could probably bet anywhere from 3rd to 1st seed, just to really play it safe. I feel like Nuggets could have another run, but back-to-back chips, I feel like that's just it would be unusual, but I also wouldn't really be that surprised if it happened. But at the same time, I feel like that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
They just won their first chip ever, so going back to back, that's a huge deal, and that's something that just isn't really seen.
Is there a specific team that you would put your money on? Obviously you want to say the Sixers because you're a Sixers fan,
Yeah.
but take bias out of it. What is the team that you would be willing to put your money on and risk it all for them?
I think it's really just depends on, like,
We're not even into the offseason yet. Free
Yeah.
agency hasn't opened, so this is a big question. You don't know what teams are going to look like, but as it stands today, is there any team that stands out to you?
I want to say the Suns, because they just have so many good, pieces. But with Chris Paul leaving, I could see them maybe trying to get someone like better that would replace him. And I feel like if they just actually use their pieces like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, they could definitely make a playoff.
So that's your right now. That's the team you'd be willing to put your money on.
Yeah.
I want to look at a team who the last few years have been there. They lost the finals a couple years ago, and they have always been in the Eastern Conference playoffs for the last 10, 15 years. It feels like.
Mm-hmm.
As much as it hurts me to say this, I think the Celtics are one of the best teams in the league, and they're gonna have to make some moves for sure. Replace Al Horford. He's getting older.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of great pieces there.
He
and I
still
think
puts up
that-
points, too.
Yeah, he puts up points, but he's not quick moving up the court. He doesn't grab enough rebounds, in my opinion. But he plays good defense. So I think that if they are able to put their pieces together and use them correctly, go out and get a couple more guys who are a little quicker, then I think that the Celtics are my team to bet on right now as it stands. And then just, is there any team that surprised you this season in the NBA and any team that disappointed you? Any player specifically that surprised you or disappointed you?
I was kind of disappointed about the Mavericks not even really making a playoff run. With
Right.
People were really hyping up the Kyrie Luka combination, and people were really saying they could go far, and then they didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The West is always strong, but when you go out and sign, trade for a guy like Kyrie, and you have a guy like Luka, you expect to make the playoffs. But it's not too shocking because you see a lot of times when a team trades for a superstar in the middle of the season, they don't always play as well because they're not used to being on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Luka and Kyrie are both extremely ball dominant, so they didn't figure out how to share the ball correctly at times. But I think if Kyrie stays on the Mavericks for one more year, I think that they'll be able to put some things together, and I think they'll be able to figure out how to make it work. So I'm excited for that team.
Yeah.
Any players that really shocked you this year?
What about Mr. Fine in the West? I mean, Ja Morant. Let's talk about Ja Morant. He's a great young player.
Yeah,
as much as people hate him,
I wanted to bring that up in a couple of minutes.
he's one of the best players in the West. He can do great things with the Grizzlies, and he could potentially take them to a playoff run, and he's just all around amazing. But he manages to just screw himself over just repeatedly, and now he's out for what?
25 games the suspension is.
Yeah, 25
That's
games.
just over a quarter of the season.
Exactly. So that could definitely potentially do some damage to the Grizzlies and their momentum going forward in the season. So I really think that he needs to get his act together and he needs to change, or else then his career is just going to be over and it'll be just a really big
Disappointment.
yeah.
Now, speaking of the Grizzlies specifically here, when Ja was off the court last season, they had a higher winning percentage than when he was on the court.
Wow.
A lot of people are saying that they're a better team without him, but I disagree. I'd say that they play different without him.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the NFL, you see a lot of times when the starting quarterback goes down, the backup comes in and he plays really well, but that's because they change the game plan. They hand the ball off a lot more, and they just run a different offense. I think it's the same thing with the Grizzlies. I think that when he's on the court, they're 100% a better team. But, when you're obviously going to lose games when he's on the court and you're going to win games when he's on the court. So I think they're a better team with him, and I think that it is going to hurt them a lot. 25 games, they're going to have to at least be 13-12 after that to even have a chance to make the playoffs. They can get into the play, and then if they do that, then they have a chance. But it's going to be an uphill battle for them now.
Exactly.
And as a player, as a teammate of Ja, you don't want that to happen. But as Ja, you have to feel like he has to take full responsibility for putting his team in a bad position, especially when he's supposed to be the superstar of that team.
Exactly. I saw something that he tried to state it was a lighter gun. The second one.
I didn't see that. I saw after he got his suspension, him not openly admit that it 100% was a gun, but I saw him say that he's going to work on himself in the off season, go to therapy potentially,
Hopefully,
and really just try to get his mind right and stay physically ready to come back as well. So I think that's really all we want to talk about for this past season. We talked about our NBA picks for next season.
Yeah.
Do you have an MVP pick? Or is it too early for you to touch on for that?
Probably too early for me to touch on that.
Yeah, there's always guys like Embiid, Jokic, Curry, LeBron, Giannis. There's too many to name.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm gonna go back to Jokic. He just played so well throughout the postseason. If he's able to play half as good in the regular season, I think he could definitely get another MVP. But now we can jump into the NHL. The Vegas Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup playoffs in 5, just like the finals ended, and it was a blowout victory, 6-3. Scoring 6 goals in the NHL is extremely difficult in one game, especially when you have a chance to close out. Your emotions are running high. This is a team that's only been in the league for like 8 or 9 years. They just made this team. None of the players have won a championship before, so to come out and be that poised and that ready, extremely impressive. They put together a great coaching staff, and in only 8 years, it's extremely impressive what they've done, because there's teams like the Flyers who have been around since the beginning of the league who haven't even been able to put together runs recently in the past 10 or 12 years to make themselves even seem good.
Yeah.
So to be able to play that well throughout the entire season is extremely impressive, and to really harness it in there at the end to make sure they can finish off the job. Just extreme props to all the players, coaching staff, and the owners of that team. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Not a good look for Florida fans, though.
No, definitely not. They lost 2 championships in 2 days, just like Philly.
Yeah, similar to Philly.
But that's the whole state of Florida. We're just one city, so that hurts even more.
Yeah.
And we lost 4 if you count the not CFL, the American Football League?
Yeah, XFL?
XFL. There's too many fake football leagues out there for me now. I'm getting confused. But, yeah, Florida, we're sorry that you guys have lost 2 championships. I hope you know how it feels.
Yeah, we know how it feels.
It gets worse. Just trust me on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Just be prepared to be upset for the rest of your life. But I think that's all we want to talk about for the NHL. Do you think that since an expansion team has won so fast, do you think that the NHL is going to try to expand more and add more teams, or do you think they're happy with where they're at right now?
I think it would definitely be good. Maybe I feel like it could be a good look to expand. Get some new places in there and just up the competition even more, and make everything just more exciting, and just maybe reel in some new fans. I feel like it would be a good look for them.
For sure. All right, so now I think we want to jump into the little bit of transfer news that we do have.
For soccer.
For English football, really just football as a whole.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Jack take this away. He knows a lot more and has done a lot more research on this.
Okay, so let's start off with a transfer that actually happened a couple hours ago. Ruben Neves, the Portuguese midfielder from Wolves, has just went to the Saudi Arabian League for $55 million. 4 relatively big players from Europe, just top 5 leagues that are now in Saudi Arabia, which that would be N'Golo Kante, Benzema, Ronaldo, and now Ruben Neves. So Saudi Arabia are getting these good pieces, and they're spending a lot of money. I think in total, it's $355 million without Ronaldo.
Right, and
Which-
he alone was
Yeah.
a few hundred million.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're spending so much money, and they've only had 4 players. It's sounding like a Chelsea situation.
To a point.
Yeah, but just, there's different teams too. But it's the same amount of money somehow.
Yeah, the league as a whole is spending all of this
Yeah.
money.
It's just a lot to take in, and I think that what Saudi Arabia is trying to do is not only good for them, but it'll reel in a new type of audience to Saudi Arabia. And I feel like if this keeps on going, then I feel like what we talked about a couple episodes ago, Ronaldo's statement about Saudi Arabia being the top 5 leagues.
Yeah, slowly getting there.
Yeah, could potentially happen, but they're going to have to keep doing more work like this, maybe some bigger signings. Ruben Neves is a great signing. He's a great midfielder. And a little bit out of his groove right now.
Yeah.
Didn't really play too well this season, but $55 million, that's a little overpriced in my opinion.
Well, every player that's there, I feel like, is definitely overpriced at this point.
Yeah, Benzema going there for $200 million is kind of insane. Benzema is a great player, just won the Ballon d'Or, so I'm not going to fault any of that, but
200 mil,
$200
though?
million is a lot. That's almost as much as Neymar went to PSG for.
And when I look at how much teams are spending, I also think about the relevancy of the team.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about how much money Chelsea has spent. They spend that much because they have that much money to spend, and because they're pulling in that much money every year that they're not spending above their means.
Yeah.
What team did Benzema go to?
Al Ittihad.
Okay, have you ever looked up one of the scores of their game?
No.
They are not relevant. So, did they overpay for him? Yes. But if he went to a Premier League team, would that Premier League team overpay for him if they gave him $200 million? Not as much. But they're not a relevant team, not a relevant league yet. So spending this much money, I feel like, is unhealthy and is eventually going to lead to the downfall of the league more than anything. It sounds like a great signing for the club, which you're having a great player come in, but you're spending so much money when you're a team that's not making as much money.
Exactly.
That's how I see it. But they are bringing in players, which is going to bring them in relevance, hopefully. So, I mean, potentially we could see the league growing, but
Yeah.
I don't think they are on the right track yet. I think they're spending too much money.
Yeah, they right now they're in rumors. They're really big rumors about people like Sergio Busquets going. Just not retired. He just went away from Barcelona. Then you have Edin Dzeko, who's getting a little bit older. Just lost the Champions League final with Inter Milan, and just he's also kind of falling out of his prime. Edin Dzeko was great at Man City when he played. I feel like those 2 signings alone would be also reel in some more numbers. People who want to see Busquets play, Busquets, in my opinion, is a top 5 midfielder of all time.
All time?
Yeah.
That's a bold claim.
He's one of the best center defensive midfielders. He's very, very underrated in my opinion. And I can really see if he went to Saudi Arabia, I feel like that would be really good for his career because not many teams right now would want an older midfielder. But moving on from Saudi Arabia, I want to talk about Arsenal and Chelsea. These 2 teams are really trying to sign people.
And I think you
Right
and I
now-
have a big different of opinion on the player that you're about to bring up.
Wow. Okay, so Kai Havertz is looking, and it's honestly so close. Kai Havertz said himself that he wants to move to Arsenal. I personally think this is the worst idea of, like, Mikel Arteta. What are you thinking? You know, he thinks he can get the best out of players, and in my opinion, he got the best out of Jorginho when he came from Chelsea for 15 million. But Jorginho also wasn't completely out of form, and Jorginho still was putting up great numbers, statistically, when playing for Chelsea, even in their rut, even in their bad patch, where they came 10th this season. I think this is a waste of 60 million. We have such more things we should be looking at. We shouldn't even be looking at Kai Havertz right now. We should be looking at Declan Rice, finishing that up, and securing the midfield spot for when Granit Xhaka leaves for Bayern Leverkusen. And I think this is just so dumb by them. Such a waste of money. And, we bid for Declan Rice, and it was rejected for the 90 million that we put up. So, obviously, I think that we just need to throw, 10 million more to West Ham. We could get Declan Rice. Then we can focus on other signings. I don't think Kai Havertz should even be in talks.
I'm looking at it different. I think Kai Havertz, like you said, he's out of form. But if he was in form, we've seen him in form before. He's extremely talented. He's a good player. And I think Arteta can get the best out of him. And I think that he would be able to mesh really well with the rest of the team. I think that he'd be able to play really well with the rest of the team. He didn't score tons of goals this year, but I feel like he is still a good enough player that we are going to be able to make the best out of him. And since he didn't play too great last year, this $60 million is probably the cheapest we'd be able to get him for.
Yeah, we also bid 50 million and it was rejected.
Yeah, so I think that this is if you're going to go after a guy like him, this is the best time too, because he didn't have a great season last year. 60 mil is the cheapest you're going to be able to get him for, and I think he's a player that will bounce back next season and play better than he has this year and the year before maybe.
Such a dumb signing, though, in my opinion. Havertz, if we want to sign a striker, first of all, why are we signing a striker? We don't know what we're going to do with Eddie Nketiah. We don't know what we're going to do with Balogun. We don't know, and we have Gabriel Jesus, who's honestly, in my opinion, a guaranteed starter if we're bringing in Havertz. Havertz, there's no way he's starting over him. And if anything, Havertz's other position is an attacking midfielder. And if you're telling me Havertz is going to start over Martin Odegaard, our captain, that's just not realistic at all. So
I think that
I feel like Havertz is literally coming here. If we're spending $60 million, we shouldn't be spending it on a rotation player.
See, I think that the reason that we're going out and trying to get him, spending $60 million, is to figure out what we're going to do with these other players. If we're able to get him, then it makes our decision on what we want to do with Nketiah a lot easier. So I feel like doing this, it helps you figure out what you want to do with your team in the following seasons. And I think that, maybe they're planning on going out and getting him and making him a part of the team long term and not just for a season or not just for 2 seasons. I think that this is going to be something that is a long-term thing once we get him here. And I think the signing is going to benefit Arsenal way more than anything. And something with Havertz is he's won before. He's come close to winning before. He
won the Champions League.
He knows how to win games, especially in the biggest moments, which I hate to say this as an Arsenal fan, but in those big moments, it seems like we've faded away before. So bringing in a player who's won the Champions League, I feel like is going to be extremely beneficial for the team and for morale coming into those big games. I feel like he can take a big step up in those big moments.
So it looks like I'm still feeling quite strongly about the Havertz deal. Personal terms have agreed. Chelsea, they asked for 75 million, but it's more close to 60 million. They're not gonna they'll probably be fine with getting rid of him. A lot of people are pretty much making fun of him. Yeah, it's not really. Some people are saying like good news, but
I think that this is a decision that is very controversial for both sides. There's a lot of Chelsea fans that I've seen and talked to that are upset with him leaving, but there's a lot that are extremely happy to be able to get rid of him and get 60 mil to be able to go out and spend on other players. And same thing with Arsenal fans. You're very disappointed in the deal, and I know a lot of Arsenal fans who, like you just said, are saying this is good news for them, that are happy to have him on. I think that only time's really going to tell.
The reason why I compare it to Jorginho is because Jorginho really got the best out of Mikel Arteta really got the best out of Jorginho, and for such a little price. Jorginho came to Arsenal for only 15 million.
Right.
It was completely unexpected. There was no talks about it until the morning of, when he officially got signed and was in the jersey. I think Jorginho has been phenomenal for Arsenal. I haven't really said, oh, Jorginho didn't really have a good game. I think that he played really well this second half of the season. So, comparing that to Havertz, if we're paying this big price, then he better show up and he better be able to, make an impact, especially in the Champions League now that we are pushing for a Champions League run. But I want to talk about, I want to ask you one more question about Arsenal, and then we're going to move on to a Chelsea signing that's pretty much is going to happen. So, Arsenal, now that we started pushing for Havertz, we left the race for Caicedo, who's Brighton's center defensive midfielder. Do you think that's smart because of the fact that we solely, our number one push this season is Declan Rice? We still haven't really bid on him yet, but it looks like there's a new bid coming.
Right.
Do you think it would be smart to sign Caicedo, or Declan Rice and Caicedo, two center defensive midfielders, pack the midfield just in case if maybe someone like Thomas Partey leaves? Or do you think it would be better if we got someone more an attacker like Havertz and Declan Rice?
I think that Declan Rice, like you said, is the guy we really want this offseason. So
we're willing to pay $100
of course,
million.
he's 100% our biggest signing. I think then you look for the attacking side of the ball. You try to lock down that one center defensive mid, and then you look for an attacker, because, like you said, we don't know what we're going to do with these players that are already up top. There's a few players that you named up top that we don't 100% know what's going to happen with them.
Mm-hmm.
Once you lock down that center defensive mid, and once you're able to try to lock down Havertz, then you can look at your other options. But I think that going after one defensive guy and one attacking guy is probably the best bet for the moment. And then you can always look at other options once you're able to secure those guys.
Mm-hmm. We're also looking at Romeo Lavia from Southampton, who played really well this season. Very impressive. He's a right back, but I can't really see him starting over Ben White, maybe. But Ben White had a really good season. He's the type of right back we want, that overlapping right back. I don't really see Romeo Lavia unless he changes completely how he plays. Then he would maybe start over Ben White, but not really. So Chelsea already looking to buy a new striker. Finally, this is one of the best deals I think they've done in a while, besides Christopher Nkunku. Nicholas Jackson is a Senegalese striker from Villarreal, and he scored, I believe, I'm not really sure how much he scored, but he he did really well the second half of the season for Villarreal, and put up some really good numbers and some really good goals, and only a 35 million fee for him is, in my opinion, a steal. This guy he's really good. He's got a great last name. He's just, I think this is a really good signing for Chelsea, especially for more than a 5-year deal for 35 million. You know, that's really good. I think he could do good things at Chelsea. I think he would be a really good replacement now that João Felix, it looks like he's going to go back to Atletico Madrid. And Havertz leaving probably to Arsenal. I think, what do you think? Do you think this is a good signing for Chelsea, or do you think they should maybe look towards new people now that they have Lukaku also coming back? Do you think?
No, I think it's definitely a good signing, especially for the price tag, because if for whatever reason he's not able to play as well, it's not a ton of money that you're spilling out for one guy. I think that for the price you're getting him, he's extremely talented, and I think he'll be able to do good things with them. And if he's not able to, then you're not losing too much money on a guy. And I think that worst comes to worst, he's a rotation player who will be able to make an impact when he comes on.
All right. Enough of transfers. Let's go on to the two big international things going on right now. Let's first talk about the Nations League.
Yeah.
So, we saw that Croatia was able to beat Netherlands in the last final minutes. They went to extra time. Modric had a world-class performance. You know, not really surprised. He's one of the best midfielders in the world. Maybe, in my opinion, top 3 midfielder of all time.
There's just so many good midfielders out there, of all time. That's hard to say.
I'd put him tied with Zidane, maybe for number 1. And I know a lot of people will agree with me on that one. Modric is one of the best midfielders. He won a Ballon d'Or. So, yeah, now the final right now is Croatia versus Spain. Spain beat Italy, so those two advance, and Italy beat Netherlands today to win 3rd place. Not really surprised. Netherlands really choked under pressure. But who do you think will win, Croatia versus Spain? Spain have some good pieces. Joselu, I don't really know how to say his name, Joselu. Spanish striker, just signed to Real Madrid, doing really good right now. Then you also have some other people like, God, I can't think of David De Gea. You have some really solid pieces for Spain.
Right.
You also have Croatia, who have Modric, Kramatic, I think it is. They have some really good pieces, and they've made it to the finals so far. So, who do you think will win? What are your score predictions? And, yeah.
I think it's going to be a close match. Like you said, both teams have extremely talented pieces. One thing that I think that Spain has that Croatia doesn't is I think that they can figure out a way to go into an all-out attack. And if they start pushing the ball up, I feel like they're just so talented when they move the ball up into the opponent's half, that they're able to just have an Arsenal attack of shot after shot after shot. That is eventually a couple will sneak past. I think it's going to end up being a 4-2 game.
High scoring.
Definitely high scoring, but I think there's just going to be so many shots taken, and I think it's going to be 3-2 going into the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the game, and then Croatia knows that they're going to have to score another goal, so something is just going to fall apart, and Spain's going to be able to go on a run and just score a goal in the last minute or so to make it a 4-2 game and secure the victory.
So obviously the 2 games that we're going to talk about are happening today.
Right.
The Nation League is in about an hour, and the next game is
Tonight at 6:40.
Yeah. So In my opinion, I think Croatia will win. I think it'll be a comfortable win, 2-0. I just don't think Spain are going to be able to show up. They're pretty good right now. I think they're on a good run, but I don't think they'll be able to beat Croatia. Croatia have just shown so much heart in the Nations League so far, and I just can't see anyone beating them right now. Next up, let's talk about the Gold Cup. Canada versus USA. Hold on.
Before we talk about the match itself,
Okay.
can we talk about what happened in Mexico, United States versus Mexico in the semifinals?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wasn't surprised that the U.S. came out on top. I think that
Of course.
I think we are just the better team.
We have been for the past 5 years.
Yeah, definitely. But what happened? I saw us score our third goal,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went home. I was at your house. I went home, and you texted me that the game was suspended.
Yeah.
Early. What happened?
So basically, while Matt Turner was punting the ball, the Mexican fans were yelling and doing a homophobic chant towards Matt Turner every single time he would punt the ball. And eventually the game was stopped and they paused, and the announcers went on the mic, they said a bunch of stuff, and they told them to stop or else the game will be suspended. Matt Turner then gets the ball again, they do it again, nothing happens off of that one. Matt Turner then gets the ball again, they do it again, and then the game is suspended. I think it's a lot of people are saying that what they were saying wasn't homophobic and it was something else, but it still doesn't justify the type of maturity that they have, like, during the game. Like, you're losing 3-0. You should have a little bit more respect for the other team after they just silenced you, destroyed you. Like, we absolutely just outplayed Mexico, and they were just terrible that whole game, just constantly committing fouls. And
Yeah, it was a dirty game
Yeah.
from the start. Felt like. What do you think of the way Pulisic played in that game, scoring 2 goals, leading the team? His first game back as captain since he was playing captain throughout this entire thing, but since Tyler Adams went down since the World Cup.
I think Pulisic definitely deserves to wear that armband. No shade to Tyler Adams. He's our best midfielder, in my opinion. And it's really unfortunate him still being on injury. But I can see... I feel like Pulisic should definitely carry that armband and wear that armband. And he's just really our leader, Captain America, the best player that we have.
Right. One of the best Americans of all time.
Yeah. I think this 2-goal game, his amazing performance just was a bold statement saying on how he really should go to a different team. I'm saying maybe somewhere like AC Milan or maybe stick to the Premier League, go to Newcastle, get a Champions League run in. I feel like Pulisic really just needs to leave Chelsea. It's such an awful environment that the fans don't appreciate him enough. He is just such a great player and just comes through when needed, and he's just so underrated. And I could go on and on and on and on, but
how do you feel about him joining a team like Leeds with the other Americans and trying to help them get promoted? Do you think that's in the realm of possibility, or do you think that he'll stay in one of the higher class leagues?
I don't think he would go to Championship just solely because he would then lose a pay factor. Just because he's a Championship player, then he's going to make Championship wages. And, no players wants to do that on purpose. Maybe, he's playing with his international teammates, Brendan Aronson, Tyler Adams, and Weston McKennie. But I can't really see that happening. I feel like he will stay more in the
in one of the higher leagues.
Yeah, Europe's top 5. So obviously you saw that we lost two huge factors for our team, Weston McKennie and Serginho Dest. Dest had an amazing game. McKennie had an amazing game. They just got caught up in Mexico's just immaturity.
Got sent off.
Yeah, both got sent off. I don't know how McKennie got sent off. He got his shirt ripped. That one was confusing, but Dest was sort of just defending himself, and I can't really, I see why he got sent off, but it kind of sucks.
For sure.
Do you think that's going to affect the result of today's game, or do you think that USA are still going to win, and what are your score predictions for today's game?
Over the past year of watching Team USA, I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me is how deep of a team we are. I think that, we obviously have our best players on the pitch, but I think that when our reserves come in, they truly do play up to the standard of the other players when they're needed to. I think that it's not going to affect us too much. I feel like McKennie definitely was a bigger loss than Dest, and that's no shade throwing at Dest, but I feel like McKennie just knows how to play with the guys a little bit more than Dest. But I feel like we're going to be okay going into this match. Canada's a strong team with Alphonso Davies.
Jonathan David.
But I think we're a good enough club to definitely beat them. A good enough team to beat them.
Yeah.
So I don't see too many problems. I see us winning 3-1. But one thing I do want to talk about, I'm not 100% sure. During the Mexico match, they announced that Greg Berhalter is coming back to coach the U.S. men's national team. Is he going to be back for tonight's game, or are they letting the interim manager finish out this Gold Cup run?
He won't be back for tonight's game, though.
Right.
He will be back in the next major.
So after this tournament, he's going to take over again?
So, yeah,
okay.
for, I think it said 2 years.
Okay.
2 or 3 years, something like that.
So there's no guarantee he's there for the World Cup,
Mm-mm.
but so it's just a 2-year extension, okay?
Yeah. So my question though is, we all know what happened with Gio Reyna. That really big controversy with the parents, and they really got him fired. Do you know anything about that?
I was hearing a little bit about it. I don't know everything. It just seems like immaturity.
Yes.
To me.
So Gio Reyna wasn't getting playing time, and don't get me wrong, Gio Reyna is one of the best players we have. I myself question why we didn't play him, and I think he's 100% right in the fact that he should be upset he wasn't getting playing time, especially in the World Cup. We should have been playing him.
But that's not a time to go to your parents and cry. That's when you go to your manager and tell him that you want to be a bigger part of the team.
Exactly. And at the time in in the World Cup, we were running, our midfield was Tyler Adams, Yunus Musa, and who's outstanding. I love Musa. And Weston McKennie. So, that's a strong midfield, and to be able to take that spot of one of them is really bold, especially after Musa had a really good season in Spain. I would be really surprised if once Tyler Adams comes back, he stays a starter. Obviously Tyler Adams is going to have to slowly get back into the groove, but once he does, that midfield partnership really worked for us. So unless we change maybe the formation, then I can definitely still see that midfield staying how it is. But nothing better than a little competition.
Yeah.
And that's stuff we want. Same thing with right now. Another thing I wanted to talk about, Ricardo Pepi, obviously overlooked because we just got Fuller and Balogun, one of the best strikers in Ligue 1 this season. And Balogun is, I believe he finished with 22 goals this season, which is just, outstanding, especially for an American. But, he didn't score this game. He had a really good game against Mexico, but he didn't score. He was really more playmaking.
Yeah, he facilitated the ball
Yeah.
to the best of his abilities, and it really showed on the score table. Did he have any assists?
I'm not sure.
I'm not. I don't think he had any assists, but I'm pretty sure he had almost every pass to the assister.
It's something like that.
Um,
But Ricardo Pepi then comes on and instantly scores. You know, Ricardo Pepi, this is another thing he did in another game that the last USA game I watched, Ricardo Pepi came on and he instantly scored. Ricardo Pepi is a great impact player. He's just amazing, just very overlooked, and I feel like Balogun should see him and genuinely be threatened by him and feel like, oh, snap, like I have to step up my game or else this guy will replace me, because Pepi does deserve maybe a starting spot eventually.
I like him coming on as reserve because he's that high energy guy. He's a guy that if you sub him in the 70th minute, just say, he's going to come in, and like you said, he's a big impact player. I think he's best to put in when the other team's already tired, because he just can run like nobody else and move the ball up so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I honestly hope they keep him as a reserve because of the way he plays. I feel like he plays better as a reserve coming off the bench.
Okay. One more funny thing to touch on. Speed finally met Ronaldo.
Yeah, they got a nice little picture together.
Yeah. I don't even know what even started Speed liking Ronaldo.
It was he was doing a stream, and someone commented "Sue," and he looked up what it was, and for the next 6 months he was just addicted to doing the Sue celebration, except he would always say "Suey" instead. But that's genuinely what started his path to fame. So it's really cool to see him meet someone who, without him knowing even, he kind of helped Speed become one of the most famous streamers in the world. Speaking of Speed, you saw the thing with KSI about the keep ups, and then KSI wasn't even able to do 20 himself after challenging him to do 20. So kind of funny to me how that's the challenge he gave him and then wasn't able to complete the challenge himself. So that's just some funny things to talk about. There's one more thing I want to touch up on.
Soccer?
No, just we're going to jump into baseball and even the NFL for a quick minute. We're going to talk about sports betting for a second.
Okay.
If you're under 21 or under 18, do not use these sports betting websites or apps. And if you have a problem, make sure to get help for your gambling problems. But in the MLB, there's a few bets that if I was betting, I would be sure to put money on. The Phillies on Tuesday are going to be playing the Atlanta Braves at home. It's going to be their first home game against the Braves since the playoff run that we played against them against Spencer Strider. And we just absolutely dominated that game. If I was a Phillies fan, I would bet on the over for runs scored for the Phillies. I would bet on the Phillies to win the game. And I would bet on Kyle Schwarber to hit a home run. It's still June. So those are my three big same game parlays. $10 on that would win you $130, and I think it's one of the best bets you can put out. Another thing, at the beginning of the season, the Braves were favored to win the MLB. They still are, but I think my dark horse, the team I'd bet on right now, personally, I would go to a team like the Rangers. They're still playing great, and I think that the Rangers are a great dark horse team. The Phillies are a good team to bet on. The Astros, they're about to get Altuve back, so that's going to be a good team to bet on. And I think right now, did Havertz officially sign?
It's not official, but it just got even closer.
He agreed on personal terms, right? So that's like housing, family things, date, time
like
off. Okay, so that just got a lot closer. I just saw you pull that up. but I just want to. You look actually a little bit excited now. I feel like the more it's starting to happen, you're getting a little bit more excited about it potentially.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
but-
Back to your.
Yeah, sorry. I just saw that come up, so I wanted to mention that. And then those are just my quick little bets for this week to bet on for the MLB. I would also say for the NFL, opening odds for the NFL are the Chiefs to repeat. I'd say that the best bet you could make is Philadelphia Eagles versus Chiefs rematch in the Super Bowl. $10 on that is going to win you $112. So I feel like that's probably your best bet. But then there's also dark horse teams like in the NFC East, for example, the Dallas Cowboys are at plus 350 to win the NFC East, meaning $10 on that would win you $350. Or it'll lose you $10 if they don't. So that's a good bet in my opinion. I feel like the NFC East is really just between the Eagles and the Cowboys. So if something were to happen to the Eagles, then that's a really safe bet, and you're only losing $10 if you make that bet. So I think from here on out, we're probably going to do a couple of bets we would make every week just to give a new segment kind of to this.
Yeah.
And I think that's really all we want to talk about for really just the podcast. Is there anything else we really want to touch up on
I want
you
to
can
talk
think
about.
of?
Let's talk about next week's episode.
Okay.
So basically, what we're going to do next week, since we are touching up on the end of seasons, and there's nothing really new going on unless there's like some drama or transfer news. We'll talk about that. But next week we're going to be doing a Q&A with just fan statements, and we're going to be
Writing them out and picking them up from a hat.
Yeah, so if you have any questions that you guys want to be answered on the podcast, feel free to leave them in the comments. Maybe go to our TikTok, comment them on our TikTok. We'll have a new post about this episode.
Right.
And the more recent episode, episode 5. So, just leave whatever you want us to talk about, sports related, and we'll definitely sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, and even if it's not sports related, if you want to know more about us personally, feel free to leave those comments as well.
Future episodes, things that you want to see.
Yeah, really anything. We're an open book. Just leave a comment. Yeah. And I think if you are going to head over to our TikTok, we're going to be posting a lot more and a lot more frequently on that now. Mm-hmm. So, like transfer news, for example, we'll be posting that probably within a couple of hours of the transfer news coming out.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit more instant news to get from us. So just check out our TikTok for that, and I think we're also going to be starting up our Instagram page soon, just for more outlets for you guys to find us and reach us. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything we want to talk about. So check out the TikTok. We'll put the Instagram in the description, and make sure you leave those comments.
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope.
So this was episode 6.
Final thoughts.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're excited for next episode.
Yep.
Yeah, bitch so bad I wanna shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you want.